If you're playing some lead guitar and you're struggling to break out of the box and you want to play something a little more sophisticated, a little more interesting, more colorful, check this out. What'd you think? To me, that was pretty cool, and it was pretty colorful. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can play stuff just like that. My name's Clayton. Welcome to the channel. Today we are going to talk about an idea called upper harmony. So upper harmony is a way that we can access more interesting, colorful sounds with stuff that we potentially already know. And that's the whole point here. If you're someone who has learned some arpeggios and some scales, and you're struggling to actually use them in a way that's interesting, you're in the right place. So the whole idea of upper harmony that we're going to talk about today comes from the concept of how chords are created and how chords share notes, how there's a lot of overlapping notes in two different chords. Let's take two chords. If I had a C major 7 chord, then my 1, 3, 5, 7 would be C, E, G, and B. And that chord sounds like this. And maybe an arpeggio, which is just playing those notes in a lead shape, essentially, sounds like that. C, E, G, B. Remember that. Let's look at another chord. E minor 7. E minor 7 is the notes E, G, B, D. That sounds like this. And in an arpeggio context, an arpeggio just means I'm just playing those E, G, B, D notes one at a time in a given position. You notice something about those two chords? 3 of the notes are shared. Now, if we label them from their respective root notes, C, E, G, B is 1, 3, 5, 7. And E, G, B, D is 1, 3, 5, 7. But what if we kind of connect them in a long stream and label them from C? Well, we have C, E, G, B, D. So, although D was the 7th of E minor, it's the 9th of C major 7. So here's the really cool part. Let's say I've got an E minor lick. And that's something that's always been under my fingers, but every time I play it over E minor, it just sounds like a normal E minor. Well, what if I put that over C major 7? So here's a C major 7 chord. I have this interesting color. How is that possible? Well, essentially what I did was I took my E minor 7 arpeggio or my E minor 7 lick and I just used it in a new context. So this is going to be really great if you're someone who has done those arpeggios, has learned some music theory, and you just don't really know how quite to apply it. You see, a lot of the times we can do a lot more with what we have than we realize. And in this case, I might have thought that E minor 7 is just that sad, minor, dark, bluesy sound, but in fact, when I play it over a C major chord, in this context, I get this major 9, this colorful, hit that D note, and I get this really interesting flavor. Let me go back to just C major. Sounds okay. But it's very middle of the road. If I play the E minor 7 over the C major, and I imply a C major 9, that D note, that's pretty cool, that's pretty special. Hear that? So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at how two different chords share notes and how we can use one chord, the wrong chord, over this other chord in order to get a little bit of extra flavor, get something different. So we're going to have a 4-chord chord progression. C major 7, B7, E minor 7, A7. And what we're going to do is we're going to discuss what chords to play over those that aren't the chords themselves. Because I'm not playing C major 7 over C major, I'm playing E minor. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to build an arpeggio off the third of each chord so that we get 3, 5, 7, 9 in relationship to that original chord. So in my B7 example, I'm going to go 3, which is D sharp, 5, which is F sharp, A, which is 7, flat 7, C, which is a 9, a flat 9 in this case, from my key. So I get a diminished arpeggio. And that's got a really cool flavor. That's going to work really nicely over our B7. It's going to give it this really cool B7 altered sound. Over our E minor chord, we're going to play a G major 7 because that would be G, B, D, F sharp, which is 3, 5, 7, 9 of E minor 7. So over E minor, I'm going to play G, B, D, F sharp. And lastly, over A7, we're going to play C sharp, E, G, B, which is a C sharp minor 7 flat 5 chord. Now, if you're saying, hold on a second, there's a lot of stuff here, that's true. What we're really trying to do here is use what we already know. So if you don't know any arpeggios, if you haven't studied any seventh chords or any keys or any scales, this isn't much of a trick. It's not much of a hack. It's a lot of work. One of the ways this really works is if you already have some seventh chord arpeggios under your fingers and you're looking to reimagine them in new and interesting ways. Let's listen to what this all sounds like. First, I'm going to play the normal version. So all my normal seventh chord arpeggios. C major, B7, E minor 7, and A7. Sounded kind of cool, but definitely to my ear, middle of the road. Like, you know, like I was so in the chords that it became boring. It became uninteresting. So now I'm going to play my upper harmony for each choice. And I'll try to talk through what I'm doing as I do it. So over C major 7, we have an E minor 7 arpeggio. Over B7, the D sharp diminished. Over E minor, the G major, and then over A7, the C sharp minor 7 flat 5. Let's listen. Back to the original. Sounds good, but it's very straightforward. Now my upper harmony. So I do end up with something that I think is a little bit more colorful. And what I did was repackage something I could already do. Again, this is about reusing arpeggios we ideally have already studied in a new context. Now you might ask, wait, aren't I just playing the 9? Isn't this a whole bunch of leaps and bounds just to say, hey, play a 9 over every chord? And essentially, yes, but if we know our arpeggios, then we might have a couple licks or a couple ideas that are already kind of pre-written, little phrases, little snippets that just, come out of our hands. And we might think that, well, I've gotten everything I've got out of that idea. So the idea here is just like, no, take that idea that you'd usually play in relationship to E minor and play it in relationship to C. And now it's new again. So yes, it is highlighting the 9, but it's about taking what you're already doing and seeing how much you can actually do with that maybe you didn't know. True, you could view this as just, well, I'm playing the 9 over every chord. And that's another way to do the same thing. This is just a different way to think about accessing some of those colors. So the best way to practice this is do a single chord backing track. 1 chord at a time, put your C major on, and practice the appropriate arpeggio, E minor 7. Put your B7 on, and practice that appropriate arpeggio, D sharp diminished. E minor 7 chord, G major 7 arpeggio. A7 chord, C sharp minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio. All of these patterns are going to be linked below where you can practice that 4-chord progression. Get a looper, I have one here, lay down a chord or the whole progression, and just practice playing and accessing those notes and seeing what they sound like, seeing what you like and seeing what you don't. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you want to see on the channel. Hopefully this was helpful. Like and subscribe and share if you thought so. And we'll see you next week for another guitar lesson. I'm going to play some more upper harmony. Got my D over C major, C over B7, F sharp over E minor, B over A7.